I sat at my desk, the soft hum of the office surrounding me like a familiar blanket. The fluorescent lights above flickered intermittently, casting a sterile glow on the meticulously organized files that surrounded me. Each document was aligned perfectly, a small testament to my obsessive need for order. I could hear the usual chatter among my colleagues, punctuated by the sounds of keyboards clicking and phones ringing. Yet, beneath the surface, I sensed an undercurrent of tension, a palpable anxiety that seemed to hang in the air. Hello. Thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, please, kindly consider subscribing to this channel. It will be great if you leave a comment down below, telling us where are you watching this video from. My boss, Harold, was in his office, engaged in a discussion with one of the other managers. I tried to focus on my work, but the snippets of their conversation drifted to me like an unwelcome whisper. Performance metrics are down, and we can't afford any dead weight, Harold's voice cut through the noise, sharp and cold. My stomach knotted at those words. I knew he was referring to our team, a group of hard-working individuals who poured their souls into every project. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was somehow at the center of his frustration. Christine's been working late every night, and it still doesn't seem to make a difference, I overheard him say. My heart sank. I had been pushing myself to the limit, hoping my dedication would finally be recognized with a promotion. Instead, I felt like a shadow lurking in the corners of his disdain. When the team meeting was called, a wave of anxiety washed over me. I straightened my blouse, took a deep breath, and reminded myself that I had prepared thoroughly for this presentation. I had put countless hours into my project, and I was eager to share my ideas with the team. As I stood before my colleagues, my voice quivered slightly, but I poured my passion into every word. I highlighted the potential benefits of my project, the innovative strategies I had developed, and the positive impact it could have on our performance metrics. But then it happened. Harold cut me off, his expression a mix of indifference and irritation. That's a nice idea, Christine, but I think we need to focus on what's realistic here. Frankly, you're just a pathetic disappointment. The words slid off his tongue like venom, and I felt the room freeze around me. My cheeks burned with humiliation, and I could hear Elias's laughter cutting through the silence like a knife. It echoed in my ears, a cruel reminder of my failure in front of everyone I had worked alongside. I stumbled out of the meeting, my heart pounding in my chest. Tears threatened to spill down my cheeks, but I fought them back with every ounce of willpower I had left. I couldn't let them see me break. As I leaned against the cool wall of the hallway, I reflected on the weight of my need for approval. I had always been the overachiever, the one who strived for perfection, but today, that drive had only led to my public humiliation. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying Harold's words in my mind like a broken record. Pathetic disappointment. Each word echoed, deepening the ache in my chest. But amidst the sting of defeat, a flicker of determination ignited within me. I realized that I couldn't let this moment define me. I would reclaim my power. I would not allow their scorn to dictate my worth. As I drifted to sleep, a plan began to form in my mind. I would gather evidence, document everything I could, and shine a light on the toxic environment Harold had created. I wouldn't be a victim of their cruelty any longer. I would rise from the ashes of my humiliation and transform it into something powerful. Tomorrow, I would take the first step toward reclaiming my dignity. I felt a surge of resolve washing over me, igniting a spark that would guide me through the darkness that lay ahead. As the days passed after that humiliating meeting, I found myself increasingly observant of the interactions between Harold and Elias. Their peculiar exchanges became a source of both intrigue and dread. I often caught them in hushed conversations in the break room or exchanging furtive glances as I passed by. Each whisper seemed to carry a weight of significance that set my nerves on edge. One afternoon, I stood at the coffee machine, my heart racing as I watched them. I pretended to be engrossed in my phone, but my eyes darted between them. "Did you see the quarterly reports?" Harold asked, his voice low and conspiratorial. Elias nodded, a smirk creeping onto his face. Yeah, I think we're in the clear. Just need to keep our heads down for a while. What were they hiding? The thought gnawed at me. It was evident that something was amiss, and I couldn't shake the feeling that their scheming was somehow connected to my recent fall from grace. I resolved to keep my eyes peeled, to gather any scraps of information that might explain their strange behavior. That evening, as the office grew quiet and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, I decided to stay late. My heart raced with a mix of anxiety and determination. I pored over company documents, seeking any clue that might illuminate the shadowy dealings of my boss and coworker. As I flipped through the pages, I stumbled upon a confidential file tucked away in a drawer. It was out of place, a clear anomaly in the otherwise orderly chaos of my workspace. I felt a thrill of excitement, my instincts screaming that I had stumbled upon something significant. I carefully extracted the file, opening it to reveal a series of reports and financial statements that looked suspiciously manipulated. My pulse quickened as I read through the details. This can't be right, I whispered to myself, feeling the weight of the implications. I knew I had to dig deeper, to uncover the truth behind these documents. But the fear of being caught gnawed at me. What if Harold or Elias discovered that I was onto them? I had to be discreet. I hastily refiled the document, promising myself to return to it once I had a better plan. The next morning, however, panic gripped me when I arrived at my desk and found the confidential file missing. I frantically searched every drawer, every corner, but it was gone. My heart raced as I approached my colleagues, the tension in the air palpable. Has anyone seen that file I was working on? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Laughter erupted from a nearby group, and I felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment. You mean the one with all the numbers? Sounds boring, Christine, Elias jeered, a mocking smile plastered across his face. Elias, this is serious, I snapped back, surprising myself with the vehemence in my voice. It's not just numbers, it's about our company. The laughter died down, and I could see the curiosity reflected in my colleagues' eyes. What do you mean? One of them asked, brow furrowed. I hesitated, weighing my words. I think Harold and Elias are hiding something, I confessed, feeling the weight of vulnerability. I found something last night, but now it's gone. Murmurs of concern rippled through the room, and I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps I wasn't alone in my suspicions. We need to figure this out, I continued, my voice gaining strength. If they're manipulating things behind the scenes, it affects all of us. As I spoke, I could see the shift in my colleagues' expressions. The laughter and mockery faded, replaced by a shared sense of apprehension. What do you propose? Someone asked, and for the first time, I felt a sense of solidarity. I don't know yet, I admitted, but we need to watch Harold and Elias closely. If they're in this together, we need to gather evidence. Nods of agreement rippled through the group, and as I looked around, I realized that the fear and humiliation I had felt alone were now shared. I wasn't just a victim of Harold's cruelty, I had allies, and together, we could uncover the truth. The embers of resilience ignited within me, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of empowerment amidst the chaos. As I paced the office floor, the weight of the missing document hung heavy in the air, suffocating any sense of normalcy that had previously existed. My colleagues, who were busy at their desks, seemed oblivious to the brewing storm. But I knew better, something sinister was afoot. I took a deep breath, steeling my resolve, and approached a small group gathered by the coffee machine. Hey, can we talk? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. They turned to me with curious expressions, and I could see the concern etched on their faces. It's about the missing document. I think we need to address this together. Jenna, a junior analyst with a fierce determination, nodded vigorously. I noticed it was gone too. What do you think it means? I think Harold and Elias are up to something, I replied, my heart racing at the thought of confronting the very men who had belittled me. And if we don't act, we'll all pay the price. Let's meet after work, suggested Tom, a quiet programmer who usually kept to himself. If we pool our experiences, maybe we can figure this out. As evening approached, a handful of us gathered in the small conference room, away from prying eyes. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting a stark glow over our anxious faces. I could feel the tension crackling in the air as we exchanged glances, each of us silently acknowledging the weight of our shared grievances against Harold's oppressive leadership. Okay, what do we know? I began, leaning forward in my chair. Elias has been unusually friendly with Harold lately, and I think they've been hiding something from us. Yeah, I've overheard them whispering in the break room, Jenna added, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. It's like they're planning something behind our backs. I feel it too. There's been a shift in the way Harold treats us, Tom chimed in. It's as if we're just pawns in his game. The conversation deepened as we shared our experiences, each story revealing a disturbing pattern of manipulation and deceit. With every revelation, my determination grew. We were no longer isolated victims, we were a coalition of discontent. We can't let this slide. We owe it to ourselves to uncover the truth, I declared, my voice gaining strength. That night, as I sat at my desk, the office empty except for the faint hum of the air conditioning, I began piecing together the puzzle. My heart raced as I sifted through the files on my computer, desperately searching for anything that could expose Harold and Elias. I had a gnawing feeling that their corruption ran deeper than mere incompetence. Hours passed as I scanned through endless spreadsheets and reports. Then, like a bolt of lightning, I stumbled upon an irregularity in the budget allocations, a series of suspicious transactions that pointed to mismanagement of company funds. My hands trembled as I copied the data, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. This was it. This was the evidence we needed. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and I jumped, startled. It was Jenna. Christine, you're still here, she asked, her eyes wide with concern. I thought I'd check in on you. I found something, I said, urgency lacing my voice. Look at these budget reports. Harold and Elias have been funneling money to their own projects, jeopardizing the jobs of everyone here. Jenna leaned closer, her breath catching as she examined the screen. This is huge. We have to show the others. I know, but we need to be careful, I cautioned, my mind racing. If they catch wind of this, they'll try to cover it up or retaliate. We have to plan our next move strategically. As we discussed our strategy, I felt a surge of empowerment. It was no longer just about me, it was about all of us. We were standing at the precipice of a confrontation, and the anticipation electrified the air around us. The more we uncovered, the clearer it became that we were not just fighting for our jobs, we were fighting for our dignity, our voices, and our right to exist in a workplace free from manipulation and fear. Let's meet tomorrow, I proposed, my determination solidifying. We'll gather more evidence and present it as a united front. Together, we'll expose Harold and Elias for who they really are. Jenna smiled, a hint of hope shimmering in her eyes. I'm in. We're not alone in this anymore. As I locked up my computer and prepared to leave, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, yet for the first time in a long while, I felt a flicker of hope. We were on the verge of taking back our power, and nothing could stop us now. As the days passed, I felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere of the office. My colleagues were beginning to look at me differently, not with pity, but with a glimmer of hope. I had shared my findings about Harold and Elias with a few trusted coworkers, and their support had transformed my mission from a solitary endeavor into a united front. The whispered conversations and furtive glances exchanged between us were no longer just an expression of fear, they were a signal of solidarity. Christine, we believe in you, Sarah, one of the accountants, said quietly as we huddled in the break room, the dim fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Her eyes were filled with a fierce determination. You have to confront him. We'll back you up. I nodded, the weight of my resolve heavy on my shoulders. The upcoming company meeting loomed over me like a storm cloud, but I wasn't going to let that intimidate me. "We need to have a plan," I replied, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "I'll present the evidence, but we need to ensure everyone understands what's at stake." "Let's gather everyone before the meeting starts," suggested Mark, a software developer who had been particularly vocal about Harold's mismanagement. "If we can get them on our side, it'll be harder for Harold to dismiss us." The next day, I watched as the room filled with my colleagues. There was an electric buzz in the air, an unspoken agreement that we were not just there for another mundane meeting. We were there to reclaim our dignity, to stand up against the bullying that had silenced us for too long. "Christine, do you really think this will work?" Elias's voice cut through my thoughts like a jagged knife, his smirk infuriatingly smug. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, the very picture of arrogance. "You're just digging your own grave." I met his gaze, feeling a surge of adrenaline. "You're wrong, Elias. This isn't about me. It's about all of us." I gestured to my colleagues, who were murmuring in agreement, their solidarity infusing me with strength. "Good luck with that," he scoffed, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. The tides were turning, and he knew it. As the meeting approached, my anxiety began to swirl within me, battling against the newfound confidence that my colleagues had instilled in me. I walked to the podium, my heart racing. Each step felt monumental, as though I was crossing a threshold from fear to empowerment. The conference room was filled with my peers and the ever-looming presence of Harold, who sat at the front, his expression a mix of arrogance and disdain. Taking a deep breath, I scanned the room. My colleagues were there, their faces set with determination. I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. They believed in me, and that belief felt like armor against Harold's inevitable onslaught. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady despite the tremor beneath. "Today, I am here to talk about the state of our company and the leadership we've been under." I could feel Harold's eyes boring into me, but I pressed on. "I have gathered evidence that suggests a serious breach of trust and ethical practices." The murmurs in the room grew louder, and I could see confusion and concern on my colleagues' faces. I took another deep breath and continued, "Over the past few weeks, I have witnessed certain behaviors that indicate misuse of company resources by Harold and Elias. I believe it is our duty to stand together and demand accountability." "Christine, you're out of your mind," Harold interrupted, his voice rising above the crowd. "You have no proof. Just baseless allegations from a pathetic employee who can't handle criticism." The laughter that erupted from Elias felt like daggers to my resolve, but I refused to falter. My colleagues' eyes were on me, their expressions shifting from shock to determination. "Actually, I do have proof," I shot back, feeling the adrenaline course through my veins. "And today, I will share it with all of you." As I prepared to present my findings, I felt a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach, but I reminded myself of the camaraderie we had built. This was more than just about me, it was about everyone who had ever felt belittled or dismissed under Harold's regime. But even as I stepped closer to the podium, an unsettling feeling crept over me, a sense that something was amiss. The air felt charged, and I could almost hear the silence building, a tension that seemed to thicken around us. I took a deep breath, pushing those doubts aside. I was ready to confront the darkness that had overshadowed our workplace for far too long. As I stood at the podium, the weight of the moment pressed down on me like a heavy cloak. I could feel the eyes of my colleagues drilling into me, some filled with hope, others with skepticism. My heart raced, but I took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of determination I had mustered in the past few days. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today," I began, my voice steady yet laced with adrenaline. "I stand before you not just as a colleague but as someone who believes in the integrity of this company and the value of our work. Today, I want to shed light on some unsettling truths." The room fell silent, and I could feel the tension coiling like a spring. I clicked through my presentation, revealing the damning documents I had gathered. Gasps echoed across the room as the evidence of Harold and Elias's corrupt dealings came into view. I could see Harold's expression shift from arrogance to sheer panic, his face draining of color. Elias fidgeted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Over the past few months, I continued, I've discovered that our resources have been manipulated for personal gain. This is not just about numbers, it's about our jobs, our livelihoods, and our trust in this organization. I paused, letting my words sink in. The murmurs among my colleagues grew louder, a mixture of disbelief and outrage. "Christine, this is outrageous," shouted one of the junior analysts, his voice trembling with indignation. "We can't let them get away with this." "Yes," another colleague chimed in, her fists clenched at her sides. "We deserve better." But just as I felt a wave of momentum pushing us forward, Harold's voice sliced through the air, sharp and accusatory. "This is ridiculous. Christine, you are fabricating all of this out of spite. You've always been a pathetic disappointment, and now you're trying to drag others down with you." The words hit me like a slap, but I refused to let them penetrate my resolve. "That's not true, Harold, and I have the proof to back it up." I shot back, my voice unwavering. The room was thick with tension. I could almost hear the hearts of my colleagues pounding in unison. "Proof?" Harold scoffed, but the uncertainty in his eyes betrayed him. "This is nothing but a desperate attempt to undermine my authority. You're grasping at straws." I could feel the fire igniting within me, fueled by the support of my colleagues. "If you think I'm going to let you bully me into silence, you're mistaken. I have something else to share." With trembling hands, I pulled out my phone and clicked to play the hidden recording I had made of Harold and Elias discussing their scheme. As the audio filled the room, I watched as my colleagues' faces shifted from doubt to shock. "I can't believe this," someone whispered, eyes wide. The recording captured their laughter, their sinister plotting. It was a damning confession laid bare for all to hear. "I can't believe they're this careless," exclaimed another colleague, shaking his head in disbelief. Harold's face twisted in anger, his hands shaking slightly. "This is illegal. You can't just record me without my consent," he shouted, his voice rising in pitch, but the room was no longer on his side. Elias, who had been quiet up until now, attempted to interject. "This doesn't prove anything. Context matters. You don't know the whole story." His voice faltered as murmurs of dissent rose around him. "Context?" I retorted, feeling emboldened. "You were discussing how to manipulate the budget for your own gains, Elias. You can't spin that into something innocent. We trusted you." The room erupted in an uproar, colleagues standing up and voicing their anger, their frustration pouring out like a dam bursting. I felt a sense of camaraderie swell within me. This was no longer just my fight, it was ours. As the recording played on, I glanced at Harold and Elias, their faces a mix of rage and fear. I knew in that moment that we were on the brink of something monumental, a turning point not just for me, but for everyone who had felt the crushing weight of their oppression. I was no longer the pathetic disappointment they had labeled me. I was Christine, a woman ready to reclaim her power and lead others in the pursuit of justice. The energy in the room shifted, a palpable sense of unity igniting amongst us. I had taken the first step, and I wasn't going to stop now. The air in the conference room was thick with tension, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I faced Harold and Elias, the two men who had made my life a living hell. The evidence I presented lay on the table before us, irrefutable proof of their corruption. I stood tall, gripping the edges of the podium, determined not to let my fear show. "Harold, Elias," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos around me, "you can't deny what's right in front of you. This isn't just about me anymore, it's about everyone in this room who has suffered under your leadership." Harold's face darkened, and I caught a flicker of panic in his eyes. "This is preposterous, Christine. You think you can just waltz in here and make these absurd claims?" His voice was sharp, but I could see the cracks forming in his facade. "Absurd? Is that what you call it?" I shot back, unable to contain my resolve. You've been manipulating company resources for your own gain. Do you really think we'd let you get away with this? Not anymore. Elias, who had been standing next to Harold, shifted uncomfortably. I had always thought he was a friend, someone who understood the struggles I faced. But now, I could see the truth hidden behind his nervous demeanor. He glanced at Harold, and I felt a surge of betrayal wash over me. Everything that had happened, the laughter, the mockery, it all made sense now. Christine, listen, Elias stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. You don't understand the full picture. I understand perfectly well, I interrupted, feeling a newfound strength surge through me. You've been playing both sides, feeding information to Harold while pretending to support me. You're as complicit as he is. The room fell silent, and I could sense the shift in the atmosphere. My colleagues, who had rallied around me, exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from shock to determination. I could see the resolve in their eyes as they began to grasp the depth of the betrayal. Just then, the board of directors entered the room. Their presence commanded immediate attention, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. This was it, the moment of reckoning for Harold and Elias. Enough, one of the directors, a stern woman with piercing eyes, declared. We will not tolerate this behavior any longer. An investigation will take place immediately. I watched as Harold and Elias's faces turned pale, their bravado fading as they realized the gravity of the situation. Harold opened his mouth to protest, but the words failed him. Instead, he was met with the firm grip of security personnel who had come to escort them out. As the door closed behind them, I felt a surge of triumph coursing through my veins. I had done it. I had stood up to my oppressors, and they were finally facing the consequences of their actions. But just as I began to celebrate my victory, a chilling thought struck me. Elias, I murmured, my heart sinking. You were never on my side, were you? He hesitated before answering, his eyes darting away. Christine, save it, I said, my voice rising. You manipulated me just as much as Harold did. You laughed at my pain, and I trusted you. Before he could respond, the director turned to me, her expression shifting from concern to admiration. Christine, your courage today has not gone unnoticed. We would like to offer you a promotion to lead your team moving forward. You've proven yourself as a leader. The room erupted into applause, but I felt a mix of emotions. I had transformed from the pathetic disappointment into something much greater, a beacon of resilience. Thank you, I managed to say, swallowing the lump in my throat. But this isn't just about me. It's about all of us. We need to create a workplace where everyone feels valued, not just a select few. As I looked around the room, I saw support and solidarity in my colleagues' eyes. This was our moment, and I was ready to lead them into a new era of empowerment and respect. No longer would we allow ourselves to be silenced or humiliated. Together, we would rise.